It's you and me, no place I'd rather be. Ding dong, hello, let's make this house a home.
Welcome to Spencer and Sarah's house.
Welcome back to our house.
Yay, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm winding down a little bit. Yeah, just chilling. I'm ready to play some Animal Crossing today. My town is coming along so well. I'm really, really happy with my theme now.
Nice.
I'm like the type to just blow up the island and start over again if I don't like what's going on. And I made a rule for myself now. If I don't like it, I just need to flatten it and just rebuild. I'm not redoing the whole beginning of the game thing anymore. So I think it's really motivated me in a good way.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going for like town core. It's like foresty town core. Like I'm doing a lot of like trees and stuff, and then just like a lot of paths and a lot of I don't know how to describe it. Like it's getting there. I'll show you one day.
Hell yeah. We could do a tour of your Animal Crossing on here.
I'll let you know when I feel like I'm in a place where I'm ready for visitors to my Animal Crossing island.
Hell yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm good. Also winding down. It'll be my bedtime soon.
Yeah, what time is it there?
It's about to be 10 o'clock.
Oh, Sarah. Thank you for being up so late with me.
That's fine. I normally go to bed at I tend to be in bed at 11, and then I don't fall asleep till midnight-ish. Between 11 and midnight is my bedtime.
That's fair.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm good. I've been reading. I started the Crescent City series, the third series of SJM. It took me 250 pages to start enjoying it, and now I'm enjoying it. It is rough.
How many pages is the book?
700, 800 something probably. It's really big.
Oh, okay.
But that one was hard. I'll let you know if it was worth it.
Okay.
I'm enjoying it now. It's finally the point where I'm like, I'm enjoying what's going on, but it was hard to get through that. I don't know if it's just me. I haven't heard other people's opinions about it, but that was rough for me. I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I can't get into this.
See, that's how I was like with I was kind of the opposite with Court of Thorns and Roses. I liked it in the beginning, and then I hated it by the end of the first book. And I was like, what is the tea? I don't get it. Why don't I get it? So I'm going to try and reread it.
Yes.
I know. I just got to stick with it. I don't know why. It's you know why I'm mad about it.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I find the first book is very different. It sets up for the rest of the books. It's so things change.
Okay.
As in different. It's different. You won't get annoying riddles.
Yeah. Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't read this book. We're about to talk about it. At the end of the first book, there's she has to solve a riddle, and I knew the answer immediately, and so I was personally offended that she didn't know it and had to go through all those awful trials when I'm like, this could have been avoided, girl. How do you not know the answer? Which is an unrealistic way to read the book. So I just need to reread the ending knowing that. And then jump into the second one because I was just mad about it. I was like, how does she not know? I was so angry. I was like, come on.
Yeah, I think that's all. I think she does a good job at recapping the things that have previously happened in books too. So
maybe I just read the second one then. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna reread the first book just because I feel like I should, and then I'll read the second one. But yeah, I don't want to get yelled at by fans of the series that I don't like it because it was a personal vendetta on my part.
No, that's fair. Yes. Today our topic is we want to talk about growth and learning how to deal with ourselves and live as a human.
Yeah, it really be hard out here being a human.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start, honestly.
Mhm.
I don't know. Something I have little notes here because I was writing a lot about this.
Mhm.
I feel like coming out to LA and being on my own a lot, just like actually being alone and like also being so far from my family and kind of restarting things gave me a chance to do a lot of self-reflection on like what I was looking for in life. I mean, I'm obviously still doing that, but I went back to therapy like a bit after I moved out here because I was like, I need to just really put the work in. And this time around has been like the first time, not that I think like therapy in the past has been bad or like I didn't take things away from it, but I feel like this is the first time I've been going through therapy where I'm like, I feel like I know what I'm doing the work for and I know what the work is that I have to do. And
Mhm.
I'm like actually feel like I'm noticing it being applied outside of just talking about it in therapy. So it's been like a really interesting self journey for me in terms of undoing a lot of people pleasing tendencies. And the biggest thing for me is just learning how to talk to myself. I feel like I
Mhm.
put myself in the back seat so often just because I'm like, I just don't want to deal with things. And I dive into vices a lot to not have to face things. And because of it, I've never really known how to trust myself in terms of what am I actually feeling right now? Like, what do I actually think about this? Like, I'm so used to just doing what someone tells me because I want them to like me, you know, or
Mhm.
I'm so used to just burying my head in the sand because it's easier, and having to face myself has been strange, but so worth it. So that's like a
Mhm.
little bit of what I've been doing, just to
Mhm.
kick us off.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
yeah. What about you? What do you feel like you've been kind of working on lately?
I feel like where am I at? I think a big thing that's been coming up recently is um I'm finding a lot of my like how like you can like or at least like I can feel when like there's like emotions come up with in me that I know are like tied to like childhood things.
Hmm.
And I'm finding that that's coming a lot in my workspace, which is very like I'd thought like oh with like my relationships with other people it would come up or like with myself, but like right now it's very apparent of like it's work related things, which is very odd to me. But I think it's because I was a kid that was very much like I sought out to overachieve to get that recognition from adults from like that academic setting or like from parents or whatever.
Mhm.
And so I find myself like doing the same things in my professional work life, hoping that like the bosses will be like, "Hey, like you're doing such a great job," and like the validation that I hear from that is feeling like a childhood thing, and I'm like, interesting. Um, and so I'm like really exploring my previous job, not where I'm currently working, but before that, I put in a lot of work, and I think like it was just a busy job, um, where like what I needed in terms of like ooh, acknowledgement of that work was like missing in a way. Whereas like now I'm in a place of like I'm in a very healthy working environment where like things are balanced, people are talking and communicating, like there's open communication with everyone, and um, like there's boundaries that are being set and respected. Um, and so it's like interesting to see like how that is affecting like a little inner child within me, which is like very weird to me because I'm like I'd never expected that to come up in the workplace.
Yeah. I think it actually makes a lot of sense for it to come up in the workplace because it is such a literal metaphor for, seeking that validation. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's, you seek validation anyway for your performance to make sure you're doing your job well. And I
Mhm.
think it's so easy to just, yeah, take that validation from there. It was hard. I had as much as I loved working at my job before I came out here, it was hard on me too, because I relate to that. I so wanted to do a good job and have that validation to make sure I was doing everything right. And I perceived any slight mistake as world ending, world shattering, you know. Even if people were validating me and saying, you know, you did your best, it's okay, or, you know, you did it right. Even if people were like, it's okay, you know, do X, Y, Z and we'll fix it. I had such a hard time getting past like the I made a mistake part of it, or I have made what I perceive as a mistake part. It was so frustrating. Like there was a time period where like I was in a consistent panic attack, fight or flight response for 2 months, like wasn't sleeping, like, oh my God, was just stressed and such a terror to be around for so long. And I think a lot of it is just because that was the place where I felt like I was getting the validation, and then suddenly it wasn't. Like, I don't know. I think it actually makes sense. And even if people in the workplace don't intend to, you know, make you feel that way, I think we ourselves are like, you know, I think it's natural to kind of seek that out there.
Yeah, I just find it interesting. So it's like you're an adult working with other adults, but like, and I would never imagine like, oh, we're actually just like, like helping everyone's little child within them in a workplace.
Yeah.
It's just funny.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So what kind of things have you been doing to like help with those like setting boundaries, like people pleasing things?
Honestly, it's starting with me first, because a big part of the people pleasing for me was it doesn't matter what I want or what I need right now. It's all about what this person needs or what I can do to come across as reliable. So what I've been focusing a lot on, and it was kind of hard to do at first because it felt silly, but it was a lot of just talking to myself, whether it was out loud or like sitting down and like just doing it internally. It was funny. Like I can't remember what my therapist calls it, but it's some like, it's like the idea of like the anxiety and whatever those feelings are that you're perceiving as like negative are coming from a place of I have a need, you have a need that's not being met.
Yes.
So you need to sit down and figure out what it is. Because I used to view the anxiety around not being helpful enough or reliable enough, like that anxiety that comes from the people pleasing, as such a negative thing. Like I was adhering to it all the time, like that it ran my life. And I saw it as such a negative thing. So it was interesting to kind of change my thinking around it, where it's like the anxiety, it can be wrong sometimes and like lie to you, but it's coming from a place of like, there's a threat. I'm trying to protect you. You know, there's a fear in you. There's something missing that you need to deal with. So just changing the thoughts around the anxiety actually helped a lot to start with. And then, a lot of it was just sitting there and being like, okay, this person said this thing that made me feel bad, but why? Or like, I feel so motivated at work, but I don't feel motivated at home to, you know, do the simple things like take a shower, like make myself food. It's like, why? So we would practice sitting there and just like, I wouldn't say like meditating, but kind of looking internal. And just like sit in the feeling. Where does it feel like in your body it's coming from? You know, follow that thread. Does it feel young? Does it feel old? Because sometimes like one of the things we talked about is how like there's like this part of me that feels a lot like my younger self being like, well, why am I worried about something I shouldn't be? You know, why is this falling on me to worry about? So it's a lot of that, which again was hard because it was just like, I don't know how to do this. Like, I don't know how to talk to myself, and I don't know how old this part of me is that's upset, or, you know, like stuff like that. But it just takes practice and it takes time, like, you know. And it's funny too, like when I reflect on where I was when I started therapy, which was like I think last year, it doesn't feel that long at all, actually. When in the moment I was like, I'm never gonna get this is never gonna make sense, like you know. And I think that's sometimes the daunting reason why a lot of people maybe don't seek it out, which, like, you know, if you seek out therapy or don't, that's totally your decision and up to you. Sometimes it works for people, sometimes it doesn't. But I think there's just sometimes the idea of like, well, how do I fix this? How will this fix it? And it's just like, it's just work. It's work like anything else. And some days you're good at it, and some days you're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. What about you? Do you feel like you've had to kind of learn new ways to speak to yourself, or, you know, ways to identify these feelings and getting the validation from yourself instead?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I think trying to figure out how to approach this. I feel like this past year was like a year of like surviving to like finally get to the point where or like rebuilding, I guess. It was like a year of rebuilding because I went through like a big breakup. So I was like reconfiguring what my life is and what it's going to look like. And I think with that, I found it was like learning. It was a lot of that, like dealing with the people pleasing, learning what I liked and like how to communicate that in the sense of like turning away from that people pleasing thing and being like, I can say no, or like I can have an opinion. But also if I don't have an opinion, that's fucking fine. Like I also don't have to have an opinion, and that's fine. I get so defensive about that. And then and I think I've been like, with this rebuilding, I've been truly trying to embrace, I feel like when breakups happen, there's sometimes that feeling associated of like, I don't know who I am, or like I've lost something and I'm trying to get back to that. But like for me, my experience was I still felt very much myself. Like I didn't lose any part of myself, but it was I spent the past year kind of elevating myself and learning how to like appreciate that. So I think my self-talk has like improved a lot, where like, though I still get anxiety, though I still have like insecurities, there's still this like, I feel less bashful about like myself. Like I feel very like comfortable in myself, and like just like I enjoy having fun with myself and like just being confident, I guess, like, and not shying away from like when like being smart. I'm like, yeah, I'm smart, or like, yes, I do things, or like I like and just like trying not to shy away from that stuff, I think is, and like stepping into myself is what I've spent this year doing.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I think self-talk is so important. This was one of the things I took notes on, because so I had to take the driver's license test to get my license here in California, right? And I was like, it was hard to like feel motivated for it, and like trying to put it off, and like stress because I was like, I can't do it. Like, you know, I'm nervous about it. This stresses me out, blah, blah, blah. But the day I went to take it, I remember just like looking in the mirror and being like, you got this. Like, it's going to go so well. Like, you're smart. You know what you're doing. Like, it's going to be okay. And it was funny. It did go well. I passed, which was good. But it was funny afterwards, driving back home, I was like, I don't think I can remember a single moment where I thought, what if it goes well? Or like, it's going to go well. Yeah. I feel like it's so easy to catastrophize is that the word?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, just think worst case scenario and like never see the positive. And so that was like such a nice like real world example of like how if I was just like kind to myself and like gave myself a chance to like believe in me and think about like, well, what if it goes well? Like, it can work. It can make me like see and experience things that I didn't think were possible. Like, it's It's so interesting how important it was. This is where I'm going to get notesy about it because I looked this up. There was a TED talk about it because I was like, how normal is it? Because sometimes you hear about people who are like, you have like an inner voice. Like I just like think, like I don't hear someone narrating in my brain.
That's crazy.
But I know. I'm like, what do you mean?
Constant loop of music playing, voices playing, other images.
Yeah, I talk to the narrator all the time, whether it's me or not,
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, for real. But like, it's totally normal for you to talk to yourself. Like, it's a necessity, you're all you've got, really.
Yeah.
And it's just all about repetition. Like, we get so used to being our own worst enemy and talking to ourselves poorly and whatnot. And it's like any other skill. The more you practice it, the better it gets.
Do you remember, sorry to, on this topic, do you remember the time when you started thinking negatively? Because for me, like, I can pinpoint in my memory, like, when I went, like, oh, I should be being negative towards myself instead. Like, I remember the moment when I flipped.
Wow, that's such a good question. I don't really know if I can. I honestly kind of feel like just feeling always like this.
Mm-hmm.
Always feeling like, I don't know, like as a kid, I remember I liked to kind of be on my own and be in my own creative space and playing with myself and my dolls and whatever. I didn't want people around. I like to do my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely like going into school, like I remember just not feeling quite, feeling a little weird,
Yeah.
I think it just starts at a young age, like feeling like you're too sensitive, feeling like no one gets you, and you just kind of think there's something wrong with me. So I don't have a pinpoint moment really. I just always feel like remembering, always just being like, I'm so weird. I need to fit in, and like I don't get why. Especially like, and that's something I struggle with in therapy too, for my therapist to be like, like, tell me about your family, tell me about yourself. And I'm like, I don't really think it's like an inciting incident, which just makes it even harder. Cause then you're like, why am I like this?
Yeah.
So honestly, I don't know. I just kind of always remember being really mean and anxious to myself. Do you feel like you can remember when it started for you?
I think I remember growing up feeling out of place. But I think there was a moment in high school where like I just noticed, there was a moment where I noticed everyone was like, would talk negatively about themselves, but those people also like were talking to friends, and that they had like people that they were talking to, like putting themselves down to talk to other people, and it was like a social element to it. And so in my mind I was like, well, if I want to connect with other people, then my way in is to talk negatively about myself or the things happening around me. And so then it became like a pattern of like, just like complaining about things, and like it started to like make me like think negatively about myself. Like, what things can I pinpoint, and like all this stuff, which was very weird. Cause like, it's weird to me to like to remember that. And like, it was like a moment where I went, huh. But then like, there was a moment at the end of high school where I was like, why am I doing this? And then like from there, like trying to like redo all of that, which was also just a hard process as well.
Yeah. I feel like I definitely remember being a part of those conversations as a kid. Like I remember being in the locker room and like we would talk to each other about the other girls, even if they were in the conversation with us. Like I feel like that's such a thing happening when you're growing up for everybody, to be comparing ourselves and talking and being kind of mean and but I think it just comes from a lot of insecurities. Like lately I think about that because lately I've been struggling a little bit with how I view my body. And every time I do, I think about that time in middle school in the locker room and us like asking this girl like, why are you so skinny? Like, like stuff like that. You just like, it feels so like it, I don't know. It just comes from our own insecurities, really. And as a kid, you don't know how to cope with that, and you want people to like you, so you kind of go with what everyone else is going with. And then, it just like totally, it's so hard to undo as an adult.
It's so hard, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't really even start that undoing journey until after I was out of college and broke up with my ex. like I didn't really like, because I was just like in a point in life where I was like, this is like something's got to give, because I'm not in a good way right now. So yeah, it's just bleh, bleh. It's hard.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
hard. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And now time for a break. Our breaks have a visual component that can be viewed on our YouTube channel.
Come along as I do my skincare routine. The first thing I do is put my hair back. My mom got me this little teddy bear headband. It's so cute. It keeps your hair out of your face. It also comes with these little cuffs you can put on your wrists so that you don't get water all down your arms. And I also pull my hair back just to make sure it's out of the way. First, to get rid of the eye makeup I just use some regular makeup wipes and just take those bad boys off. Get the wings off. Then I use Morning Burst, cleanser that you should be using in the morning, but I use it at night because I like the exfoliation. Girl. And then you gotta pat your face dry so you can get that facial toner on. I spray a lot of it. And I also pat it in and use, I can't remember what these are called, but I love it. I put it in the fridge and then I always have a moment of euphoria because it feels so fucking good on my face. I like to do under my eyes with the smaller piece as well. And then after that, I put some eye lotion, cream, whatever you would call it on, and then realize I have a bruise on my arm and then try to sit there wondering how I got it. Next, I put on some facial lotion, I guess that's what it's called, facial cream, whatever. Your nighttime stuff for your skin, really get that stuff in there. And that's pretty much it. That's the whole routine.
Welcome to my skincare routine. So I cleansed my face while taking a shower, and I'm moving on to hyaluronic acid, which I put on my face first after getting out of the shower. Just putting that on. I use a double cleanse when I'm washing my face, and I like to use the brand The Inky List. Not sponsored, but I'm just a big fan of their simple ingredients. So that was hyaluronic acid. Next is, this is backwards, I can't read that. Something about collagen, peptides, something, another serum to moisturize my face and keep my skin looking fresh and buoyant. Yep. Gotta be gentle around the eyes. I've got new nose piercings. Oh, and then we go into the gua sha, which I like to use because it feels like a nice little face massage where the points of it kind of press into parts where I hold tension in my face. So it's like a nice little massage to kind of loosen up those parts. And maybe one day I'll just have sculpted cheekbones and a jaw, but for now it's just a nice little massage that I go through. And I put the serums on my face first just to make sure there's moisture on my skin as this slides across my face. So I try to do it fast enough before everything settles in. I really enjoy, I kind of learned a lot about skincare during all the quarantines for COVID. I did a lot of YouTube videos of skincare. And it became a nice part of my life as like a little moment of self-care. So I try to do it as often as I can, but obviously life gets in the way, and sometimes it's hard to convince yourself that spending 5 minutes taking care of yourself is worth it. But when I do it, I'm very happy I've done it. My face always gets red after doing this, but it goes away pretty quickly. And this is a little lymphatic drainage going on there. That's supposed to do something. And then I'll wash that with warm water once I'm done using it. And then after that, I go on to a moisturizer to finish it all off. And that's really it. I just got new nose piercings, so I have to be gentle around the nose. And then I always try to get the neck, keep that looking fresh and as wrinkle-free as I can for as long as I can, and being gentle around the eyes. And that is my skincare routine. Thanks for watching. Oh, also, can't forget about chapstick. Moisturize your lips too. And that is my skincare routine. Thanks for watching. And now back to the podcast.
But I think it just comes down to like, as hard as it can be, it is just about the work of like sitting there and like talking to yourself and figuring out like where it's coming from, you know, like that's and I feel like that's starting to apply to my daily life too, or because another thing I struggle with, and I wonder if you have too, is like, especially on doing the people pleasing part, part of like what I struggle with is like, sometimes I just want to be like at this level we're at now, right? Like sometimes, like I would say most of the times I'm like up here a little bit, like my energy is high and I'm very like whatever and it's fine. But sometimes I'm just like down here, you know, in this level of whatever this energy is. And it's not that it's bad. It's just like, this is where I'm at today. And I feel like my like people pleasing self comes across as so high energy, outgoing, that when I'm just at this level, then people would be like, well, what's wrong with you today? Like, what's going on with you? Like, suddenly something's wrong, you know? So then it feels like you kind of painted yourself into this corner of like, oh, I can't just like be however I am that day. I kind of have to be a certain way for other people. And then it feels like you're being disingenuine sometimes, even if you're not. You're just like, this is where I'm at today. And, you know?
Yeah. I feel like that is why, I wonder if this is the connection I'm making now. I feel like when I first meet people, I'm very quiet and shy, and I think that's because I find it hard to connect with someone if I don't know them, I guess. I mean, I hate small talk as well, so like making that jump is so fucking hard. Yeah. But like I find myself when I meet people, I've stopped with the high energy. I don't remember when I stopped doing this. It had to be recently. I just got tired of it. So I was like, I don't care anymore. And so when I meet people, it's very much like wherever I'm at, which tends to be just that baseline of like, hello, because I don't want to put in the effort if it's not going to be a meaningful conversation. So I'm just like, hi, how's your day? What do you do? Where are you from? I forgot where I was going with that. I feel like I start off with that like baseline now, and like that like allows me then to like when I'm in a good mood, I can build up to that like eccentric part and not have to like fulfill that people pleasing area. Like if I'm on that high, it's because I want to be, not because I feel like I need to based on how I want other people to perceive me.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like recently I've like stopped doing that and I just don't care anymore. So like sometimes I'll come into work with like my hood up and I just don't say anything to anyone, but like no one cares. Which is like nice. I feel like it's nice to stop caring and then you can just do either one and it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that's what I'm working towards right now. Yeah, I think I've let go a lot of shame, I think, lately. Something else I struggle with too is like, I know it to be true now. I am a very sensitive human being. I experience high highs and low lows, and I feel like that I'm not bad at regulating the emotions, but it's just like, you know, I feel like sometimes it comes off as very inconsistent. I guess, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, I feel like I'm good at keeping it to myself as much as possible. Not that that's a good thing, but I think it's easier for me to hide sometimes, whereas other times, you know, I do definitely need help sometimes. But I used to feel so like ashamed of that too. It was like, and have been told by people in the past, like, well, why are you upset about this? Like, you shouldn't be, you know, or this isn't that important, or it's not that big of a thing, or blah, blah. But to me, it's like, but I am upset, you know, I understand maybe that's not the right reaction, but I'm trying to work through it. And instead of just accepting it and being like, okay, let me work through this, it was more like, I'm being told this is wrong, so I need to just stop feeling this way. And so I used to feel so bad about getting upset about things and telling people how I felt about things, because it just seemed like I was never feeling the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started therapy and was like talking with my therapist about this, she was like, well, there are people out there who are going to understand that and understand you and not be bothered by that. You know, there sensitive people exist and it's okay. And there are people who get that and it's going to be all right. And I was like, okay, but where are they? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And just couldn't fathom that. But like through this process, like I feel like I've gotten a lot less shameful about explaining how I'm feeling at the time. And I've also met people who are like-minded like me, and we can talk about things like that. Like, this made me so mad today. It's like, me too. I get like that all the time. Like, and it's true. There are people out there who, even if they're not like quote unquote as sensitive as you or experience things like intensely as you do, they're not going to be, you're not a burden. Like, you know, those people do care about you and want to hear what you have to say, and it's okay. And also there are people who do feel like you do and are going to get it. And, you know, it's possible. It's just more like you have to be willing to put in the effort to understand, like, I can feel this way, but my emotions do not control me, you know? But you should also be allowed to feel things. So it's weird, but it's true. There are people who get it.
Yeah. And I think that, I feel like one of the practices, I forgot where, I feel like this is something talked about so long ago, but like the like asking of like, how are you doing? Or like, how's your day been? And like, instead of just saying like, oh, it was good. But like, if someone, because I find there's people in my life that like will ask that, and like I know that they are actually interested in it, and like trusting in that and being able to say like, actually, like, this was really exciting, or like this was actually like really shitty, but like this is where I'm at. And like it's a good practice to do, of like communicating that and like just putting it out there, which is nice, and like trusting that other people care and like will take on that information.
Yes, completely. Yeah. And there's been like good things I've learned strategy wise too. Like we used to, the therapist before this, when we talked about this thing called the chimp method or the chimp model or something, you and I have talked about it a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. Where it's basically like there's 3 parts of your brain. It's like the computer, the chimp, and the human. And the human is you, like your logical facts, yourself. The chimp is like your feelings brain, like your survival mode brain, you know, and the computer is just like, oh, this is how this went in the past, so this must be the right reaction kind of deal. And it's the idea of like the sensitive feelings brain is always going to react first. There's no going around that. And it's learning how to acknowledge that and then let the human take over, you know, and be like, it's, you know, I hear you, I feel you, I see you, but let's just take a breath and just sit with this and we'll figure it out. And like, that is like, and the other thing too is I feel like it's kind of like you take what makes sense and works for you. So there's some parts of that model where I'm like, meh. But most of the time the idea of like, I'm going to react first, I know it, and I just need to be able to talk to myself through it has helped a lot too throughout this whole process also. But like stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
Or like CBT therapy, which was like the cognitive behavioral therapy, is what we were doing to like not regulate the self-talk, but like learn to make it productive. You know.
Yeah.
It's interesting, like the science behind all of it as well. Ugh, the brain. Yeah, I was staring at this photo of the brain the other day when I was writing the notes for this, and I was like, the frontal, the limbic, oh my god, this is so crazy. Like, why? But it's like any other organ. It gets sick sometimes too, just in different ways, and you gotta learn how to talk to yourself and help yourself out. Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. And there are definitely days where I'm better at it than others. Like some days I'm like, fuck it. Like I need to go and do like a TV hole and just not think today.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. I was wondering when you were talking about the sorry, there's a hair in my mic. Okay. When you're talking about the emotions coming up first and then using the logic to kind of work it out. I find that sometimes there's, at least like my brain, there's a validity in some of those emotions that come up sometimes, and that sometimes the analyzing of it is the detriment to it, because it kind of shuts it down and like doesn't allow you to actually process what you were feeling, if that feeling is like something that's like, oh, there's actually like merit to this, and like you're feeling this way because it's actually like it's telling you something. That's something I feel like I struggle with working around like so hard.
No, but T, for real. And that's what I mean by like you kind of pick and choose what makes sense to you and works for you from these different methods. Because like I agree with that also. Like, yes, you will react first emotionally, but there is also validity to those. Absolutely. You know, that's kind of where the computer part of your brain comes in with that method, where it's like, oh, well, this is what our experience with this thing was like before. So therefore, this is totally makes sense for you to feel that way, which, you know, sometimes is totally true. I think of it more as like, I know that I'm sensitive and feel my emotions and whatnot very strongly. And that's totally okay. But where the logic brain comes in for me is like, I hate feeling like I'm taking those emotions out on other people in a way that's not productive. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, sometimes it's unavoidable to fight with people and disagree, or to like have a very intense emotion around other people. But that logic brain idea comes in for me where it's like, I'm so sad. I'm allowed to feel sad, and this is why I'm feeling sad, and it's okay to feel sad. But like, what can we do to meet this need and make this feeling not go away, but like understand? How can we process it properly, I guess is the way I'm trying to say that.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I agree with you. So there's definitely validity to emotions sometimes. Absolutely. You know, it's just it's based on your person. That's the hard thing too, right? Is like, I feel like I have a hard time understanding people too, just because I don't understand myself a lot of the time. So it's like everybody's having their own experience in life. You know, everybody's different. How somebody reacts to something is going to be different than me, just because of their personal experience with it. So it's like, I've been trying to practice empathy a lot lately too, just because like, and that's hard because, again, like, we're all kind of the main character of our own story. I used to make this joke at work where it's like, I really forget that people are just like experiencing life differently than me sometimes. But it's true, you know, it's absolutely true.
Yeah, that's what this sounds so stupid, but like reading the ACOTAR series. Sorry to bring it back to the stupid books.
Bring it on back. I had strong unlogical emotions about it, so it makes sense that there are also strong logical ones too.
Like reading those series was like the first fantasy books I'd read, and like the description of everything going on was so magical, and like also, side note, like the like message of each of those books was so important, but the description of everything like made the world seem so like beautiful and magical that like when I would go out in public, it like helped me see things in like more of a magical sense, where like I'd be on the train and just like look at people and be like, I'm so intrigued as to like what their life experience is. And like I feel like it's been so long since I felt that like interest in like what other people are like doing, and like that empathy. Like, it's so nice to like tap into that again, because I feel like I like lost it for a very long time.
Me too. I definitely did. And it's hard, right? Because like I said, like you are all you've really got. Like, obviously you can form strong bonds with people, but we never actually really know what's going on in someone else's head, what's going on in someone else's life. And so I think it's so important to recultivate that some sense of empathy. And something that bothers me too is I feel like sometimes empathy is like seen as like pandering, maybe is how I'm trying to say that. Like, I feel like sometimes people view it as like, well, yeah, you can feel bad for this person, but doesn't like like you don't get to give them a free pass. And it's like, there's a difference, it's like you can be empathetic towards, like, I totally get why this person's feeling so upset or whatnot, but that doesn't change the fact that like they've hurt me, or like, this isn't helpful to the situation. I think practicing empathy is important, even more so to you as the individual, because it allows you to be like, I need to take a breath and like just give myself a second before I respond to this person, or is my response helpful? I think it's such a good growth tool, not just for your relationships with other people, but with yourself too, and being empathetic towards yourself eventually as well.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, I feel like that ties into something I thought of. Do you ever get tired of, like, this sounds so silly. I feel like we talked about this before. I don't remember, but
that's so ready.
Do you get tired of the fact that like your experiences are like shaping your responses to everything? Like, it really frustrates me where I'm like, God, like, it's like, I know I'm reacting this way because of my experiences, and it's like I hate that like sometimes my brain will go one direction because I'm like, because of this experience my brain goes this direction, and it's so annoying.
100%. We actually just talked about this recently when I had a very tough conversation with somebody, and it went very well, and I thought it was going to go very bad.
Mm-hmm.
And afterwards I was so angry. What was that? What just happened?
Sorry, there's a moth in my room. That really scared me. It's flying around.
Sarah just jumped out of her skin. I just saw like a flash of something across the screen.
Ooh,
oh my God, I thought you were going to do a spit take too, because it happened right when you took a sip of water.
Yeah. I was like, no.
That moth was lying in wait. That moth had no empathy.
No. So sorry.
No, oh my God, please don't apologize. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So, and I was happy the conversation went well, but I was so mad because my past experiences with that kind of thing, people have just not, they have been so mean to me and angry with me, and like, again, your feelings are justified, but how is this going to become productive, I guess, or, and because of those experiences, I never felt comfortable being blunt about my feelings. And then for a conversation to go productively, I was like, I can't believe this. Like, cause I was so nervous about it. My brain just made all worst case scenarios. I was so scared, blah, blah, blah. And made me forget like the relationship I have with this person, how they've proven time again it's okay to talk about these things. But your brain, it's your past experiences completely shape it. And yeah, that was such a weird moment for me, because I was like, I'm so glad this went well, but I'm so fucking pissed that I was so like, this is it. Like,
yeah.
Because then it just took me right back to where I was before I did all this work of like, I shouldn't say this,
Yeah.
And that's just, you can't live like that.
Yeah. I think it stresses me out, just the fact that like we're getting older, so more and more experiences are just like piling on top of each other, and I'm like, I want to have this handled. I'm like, oh God, like
it's it's so rough. Mm-hmm. So rough out here.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you kind of do to take care of yourself, I guess, in the interium? When you're kind of in this in-between place where you don't have to really worry about things happening and you're just kind of with yourself. Like, what would you like say are your kind of self-care methods in terms of your emotional health, when it comes to maintaining this progress?
Yeah. I think it's very much like listening to myself. Like, I feel like I'm always checking in with how I'm feeling. And like, it's like checking in, and then like I feel like I rely on music a lot to like boost my vibes a lot. Also for me, like working out, as annoying as it is, like makes such an impact on my mental health.
Yeah.
Like when I'm consistently working out, I just feel so much more like balanced and like up and like elevated and like motivated constantly. And like I feel like everything's like my brain is clear basically. And when I'm not, I can like feel those like dips and waves where like sometimes things are clear, sometimes it's not, and it's very frustrating. And then I know I'm like, oh, like let's like try to move my body, or like even dancing to a song real quick is like a nice like elevator, which is nice.
Yeah, I agree. I've gotten back into yoga just to kind of at least be moving my body. I really enjoy having that moment at the end where you just kind of lay there and like process what movements you just did, because I feel like it's such a good metaphor for how you would process your emotions, you know? And I agree with the music too. Like I've just put on Chapel Roan lately and just dance around my apartment. So I'm like, this brings me joy and gets me moving. I got to do something.
Same. It's her and Sabrina Carpenter I like listen to nonstop.
Sabrina, our gal Sabrina. Yeah, I think too, like, what was I gonna say? Something else I was just thinking about lately that I wanted to share. So I have like a lot of anxiety. This is gonna go real dark real fast for a hot second here, but I have a lot of anxiety around death, and I feel like because of that, I tend to play things safe and just like not think about things that stress me out. So the other part of like this journey is just like facing those fears and being like, well, what can I do to make this productive? And I was on YouTube Shorts the other day, and Trixie Mattel was on there talking to Monet Exchange about like I don't really know, it was like a clip from the show, but it was like they were talking about how like religion, like Trixie is Trixie atheist or whatever. And she said something like, I hate this idea sometimes that religion perpetuates where it's like we're all in a waiting room. Life is a waiting room, and you're working towards the whatever good or bad thing will happen afterwards. And she was like, she just said, what if this is the good thing that's happening? And in the moment, I immediately had an existential spiral, because I was like, I'm thinking about dying now. Oh my God. But then when I had time away from it and just thought about just that quote, like, what if this is the good thing that's happening? I've started thinking that just like every day when I'm like outside, like when I walk the dogs, or like when I'm, you know, like I was working on something for the podcast drawing wise, and I was like, you know, just thinking like, what if this is a good thing that's happening? It's really actually elevated my experience of life, because then I feel like I sit there and I'm like, the wind on my face, the way this paper feels, like it's like little things like that, just like finding the practice of being present, I guess, is what I'm trying to get to. Like I think is also so important. Like I used to live up here so often in my brain and just not be experiencing things in the moment. And so finding ways to like really just ground myself in the present tense and be like, I do have time. Like I am having a good like time right now. You know what I mean? It's also like actually helped it a lot. So that was just something I wanted to share, because I've been thinking of just that. I mean, it's a little bit of the different context of I guess what she was saying in the moment, but that line just really like stuck with me. Like, what if this is the good thing that's happening right now? Like, I think it's a good practice in being present. And I was wondering, like, do you ever feel like you have a hard time being present in your daily life? And like, if so, what do you kind of do to like reground yourself?
Yes. Yeah, I really love that. Yeah, I feel like because my brain is so constantly checking in on myself. I think, or like I can pinpoint, I become like aware in the moment now, like where I can pinpoint when something feels off and is bothering me. Because I feel like sometimes there's so much going on in my brain that like I can't really like pinpoint it mentally, and like I have to like feel if something feels off, then I'm like, let's pause for a moment. What is it that's bothering me? And if it's like, most of the time, luckily, it tends to be something that I can like fix, where it's like, oh, like I need to make this phone call that I just really don't want to make. I could be like, well, let's just make this phone call so I can stop feeling this way. Like I'm starting to put like, if I can find a way to ease that discomfort, and if I have the power to do that, let's just put that into action and like do it. If it's something that like I can't really do, like if it's like something I'm waiting for or something, I think I try very much to like let it go and just kind of like, which is very, very hard. But I think I try to do more things that feel better and outweigh how I'm feeling, I guess, or like find a way to talk it out. A lot of it's like I'll like just text someone and be like, I'm feeling this way. And once I've talked it out as well, that feels a lot better too.
Absolutely. It's funny you mentioned that too, because I also was watching a video about procrastination. Not that you brought that up, but something you just said now just made me think of that, of like not putting things off.
Yeah.
Because that is another problem of mine. I feel like I procrastinate so hard when it comes to me, you know, like again, little things like I need to take a shower today, or I need to just mail this letter. Like everything seems so big and scary. And so I was like, well, why? Because in my head, I know once it's done, it's done. I don't have to think about it. And it always feels better when it's done. So like, what is the reasoning behind this madness?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was another TED Talk I watched.
Yes. Yeah, it's like
took
trying
notes
to
on.
to find that it's like trying to direct yourself towards that like comfort of feeling the good feeling that's about to come, and stop holding on to the like weight of whatever it is and being like, no, we can like embrace the good part of it.
Exactly. Yeah, because that's really what procrastination is. It's like it's viewing this task as like a threat.
Yeah.
So procrastination isn't like laziness, as I feel like it sometimes gets synonymous with, but it's more of like your fight or flight response, being like, let's put this off because we're stressed.
So true.
So distract yourself with things that are not stressful. But yeah, it's just like a vicious cycle. And because it temporarily relieves the stress, it's so addicting as well in that way.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what like recently I was like laughing at myself because I had like a bunch of things I needed to recycle that were like in my room that I was like it just needed to go downstairs to the kitchen and be put in a bin. Like that's all I have to do. And then like I was just waiting and waiting. I was like, okay, it's time to just fucking do it. And then like I threw it in and then walked back up the stairs. I was like, that took 2 seconds and I feel so much better. And I was like just laughing at myself. I was like, Jesus Christ.
It's just funny. I wonder if it's like a leftover thing from like our like ancient brain, quote unquote, you know, like now our threats really aren't like so imperative to our survival. Now it's just like these little things that like feel so threatening. Like it's strange, I guess, like how the brain like, you know, intensifies things sometimes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
But again, that's why it's so important. Like self-talk is so important in cultivating a positive self-talk. Because like, how are you going to get up and do something if you just keep telling yourself like, I'm procrastinating, I'm unmotivated, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. I just like the idea that like the work is possible, and like it's so rewarding to see your work coming to fruition on yourself, you know? Like,
yes.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you remember like an epiphany moment where you're like, oh my God, like sort of how I was talking about earlier with that like conversation I had that went well. Like, do you remember like the first time you were like, oh my God, like this thing I've been struggling with so long, like now it suddenly feels easier for the first time?
There was, I think this kind of relates. When I was first like started dating my now partner, we were talking about tattoos, and I was talking about like how like I think we were talking about like neck tattoos, and I was like, I will never get a neck tattoo because that's gonna hurt so much. And like I was just talking about, like, I was like, oh, like this will hurt, and then my partner was like, you seem to be basing your choices off of potential fears of something hurting, as opposed to like you don't know if it might not hurt. And I was like, oh shit, you're right. And then like maybe like even though it was like a simple conversation about tattoos, it like started making me think that like even bigger choices I make or was making, because I've been working on it, is like it's based off of like, oh, this is gonna be uncomfortable for me, so I'm just not gonna make or like this could be uncomfortable, so I'm just not gonna do it. And stuff like that. I'm trying to like work on facing that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's a great example. Yeah, because inspiration comes from anywhere too, right? Like It's crazy how little moments like that can be so insightful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Whew. What a good little therapy session.
Yeah. Jesus, what room do you feel like we were in?
This really felt like when your friend comes over after school and you're like doing your homework together in bed, like in your bedroom, and like, you know, you just end up talking and listening to music and whatnot. Like this felt very like bedroomy vibes, bedroom hangout vibes is how I got.
Yeah, I felt like hanging out, but I felt like it was like bubble bath. Like one person's in a bubble bath, the other person just sat on the toilet, just like listening, just talking. That's amazing.
Were you in the bubble bath? Was I on the toilet? Who was where?
I feel like,
Girl. So funny.
I feel like both. Like the opposite for each.
It's like when we were in college and we had that big like group bathroom, you know, how they have multiple shower stalls and whatnot. It's like someone's at this mirror brushing their teeth and someone's in the stall and you're just talking to each other through it.
Yeah.
Oh god, it's so funny. I love that idea. But yeah, this was a good conversation. And it's also conversations like this that help too. Like feeling like someone gets it and you're not alone and you can kind of, as much as you shouldn't, it's nice to be able to measure your progress with somebody, you know?
Yeah.
Because everybody's progressing at different rates, but it's always nice to, you know.
Check in.
Exactly. Yeah, check in. Very
Yay.
good. Yay.
Okay. Well.
Ooh. Well, I feel good.
Yes.
And I'm sure we'd love to hear too, like if anybody else has felt this way or, you know, had any insights from this as well, any epiphanies, you know, please share. We're all kind of going through this together. So
yes. Yeah. What do you do to ease the discomfort or anxieties that you feel? What kind of things do you put into practice or trying to work on?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear that for sure. All right. Well, I think it's time to say goodbye.
We're saying goodbye.
Thanks for coming by.
Yes. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.